Second. Okay, at this time, is there any public comment of the audience? Want to state your name for the record, Nicole?
Nicole Claire DeStitria, 23 Ashby Drive, Deputy First Selectman, Town of Seymour. Police Commissioners, I apologize for being unable to attend tonight's meeting. I'm in Washington, D.C. this week at the 2014 National Conference of Regions, but I want to share my thoughts with you about an item on your agenda because I feel it is a crucial step in moving Seymour forward. As elected officials, we are charged with preventing stagnation and encouraging development in this town. We must always be looking for ways to streamline operations and improve efficiency. As management principles and philosophies change, we need to ensure we stay current and avoid inflexible structures that prevent progress. Taking these steps not only allows us to provide better service to residents, but also helps us to control costs. Unfortunately, these opportunities are rare, so we must take advantage of them any way possible. Tonight's agenda contains one such opportunity, the restructuring of the police department. I have had multiple conversations on this issue with Chief Metzler, Deputy First Selectman Claire DeStitria, Town Council, and union leadership. We all agree the proposed restructuring is in the best interest of the residents of Seymour because it will have an immediate impact on them. The plan is projected to save the town well over $100,000 annually by reducing the number of administrators while putting more officers on the street. Although the total number of administrators would be reduced, the addition of a commander position would actually improve accountability and management of the patrol division. This plan will allow you more flexibility in assigning officers, provide the opportunity to send more officers to the FBI Academy, and provide needed career advancement opportunities to our officers. All of this translates to a better police department and therefore better quality of life for the residents we are elected to serve. I urge you, the Board of Police Commissioners, to join me in supporting this vital step forward for Seymour. Sincerely, W. Kurt Miller and Nicole Claire DeStitria, Deputy First Selectman.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Would you like to leave a copy of that with the secretary so it can be attached to our minutes? Thank you. Are there any other people that would like to comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Okay, then let us move on. This time, approval of the minutes, January 13th.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Any comments, corrections? All in favor?
Aye. Abstain.
Abstain.
No,
I abstain also.
Okay, because both of you were not here, right? Okay. So it's 3 with 2 abstentions. 2 abstentions, 3 abstentions.
For you to speak.
Okay, at this time on our agenda, we are going into executive session to interview for a patrol position and possibly take action. So can I have a motion to go into an executive session for this purpose?
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Who's going to be included in an executive session?
Just the Board of Selectmen and
No,
the
Board of Police
interview.
Commissioners. Board of Police Commissioners.
I'm sorry.
Quite all right. I just don't want to go back there.
No, I'm sorry. It's okay. The Board of Police Commissioners and the person being interviewed, the candidate. That's part of the motion, right, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I've checked it.
Let the record show that no action.
No action was taken in executive session.
Okay. Does anyone want to introduce a motion?
To vote? Yeah. Aye. I'll make a motion that we, conditional employment, ensure that passes all the tests that are required from the Seymour Police Officer to Patrick McCabe.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
All, aye.
Aye.
Aye. And at this point, we have to ask Patrick if he's interested in accepting our offer.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
You are. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
Chief, and contact us, no such trouble.
Congratulations. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow.
Okay, right on. Moving right on, do we have any commissioners' comments at this time?
Nothing.
No comments?
No comments.
Okay, well, let us move right on. Under old business, the report from the Patrol Division. All of you have a copy of that. Anyone have any questions? Comments?
Busy month. Looked like it was a very busy month.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, the only question I have, is there any way, people call me cheap, but can't you print on both sides of the paper so I don't have so much paper? No, seriously, really. It will save a lot of
We try to
money.
do that, yeah.
We could save.
Well, actually, if you bother, they could email it to you, Bob.
Then I gotta print it.
Yeah, then you're responsible for killing trees instead of them.
No, I just thought maybe if you have the copy machines, usually we'll print on both sides, so if that works. Be less paper that we have to carry around.
Any other comments? Anyone else? My only comment is I like the way this is broken down by shifts. It really gives you a better overview of what's going on and who's, actively involved in the shifts. So I like that. Any other questions as far as that? I know you're looking at. No other questions, comments? Then we will go on to the Detective Bureau. You ready for that, gentlemen? Any questions there? I see that Joe Denegris is here, so if you have any questions on the Detective Bureau, now's the time to ask your questions.
Nope, fine.
I'm all set.
Hmm?
They're busy too.
Yes, they are. No questions? Then we'll move right on. Report from the K-9.
That report has been submitted after about 3 to 4 weeks of being out of service. The K-9 has returned. You see one call of service that he was on in that month when he came back into service, and he's doing good again.
So he's back on the job.
Yeah.
Any other questions there, guys? Okay. Report regarding the vehicle maintenance. I think we just received a copy of that, if I'm not mistaken, or is it in your agenda? Yeah, it was handed out.
One of the vendors did not get us the information, so we'll have that for you next month.
Okay.
You get the car wash information and the vehicle gas mileage that you asked for last month.
Right.
That's in there too.
Everyone received a copy of that? Any questions on that? No? Okay, we're moving right along. Under new business, restructuring plan presentation and take possible action. And I think at this time we're going to ask the chief, first of all, to discuss this with us, give us an overview of what's going on. And then if anyone has any questions, we'll have the ability to ask those questions. And I do believe that we have our town attorney in the audience, so that if we have any other questions concerning the legality, that they are here to answer those questions.
In the restructuring plan, the first selectman was talking about our budget and basically said that although we had feathered in last year's budget for manpower and slowed it down, by the time this year came around, it was going to be a full budget, so it's a pretty hefty jump. So he was trying to find some ways to augment that and at the same time provide the services. So what I came up with was a new plan. It was the chief of police, a deputy chief, an inspector, and 3 patrol commanders. The 3 patrol commanders would give us a better handle on the day-to-day operations of the shifts. They'll be setting up their schedules, they'll be setting up their assignments, they'll be responsible for the discipline and the awards, things of that nature on those shifts. The captain's position and the detective sergeant position and the lieutenant's position would be vacant at the present time, and we'd be going forward with these new positions. Those processes have job descriptions that were in the manual. I have redone those so that you're available if you need to see those. The pros for restructuring, I think you got a copy of that a little while ago. It enhances the chain of command, gives us middle management, which we didn't have. It's in line with similar departments of our size, like Cheshire, Woodbridge, Orange, Brantford, Naugatuck, etc. It gives us more accountability, more efficient delegation of duties, and it eliminates one of our biggest problems here, which is called sergeant shopping. If you got 2 sergeants on a shift and you don't like what one says, you go to the other and you play one off of the other. Now the commander will be in charge of that shift, and what he says goes, and that's the end of that. The game was being played in the past. The financial aspects, as were detected on the sheets I gave you, there's a savings pertaining to the, and don't forget, this is based on the 3% raise, which is not guaranteed. That's what the first selectman asked me to do the budget at, that's what I did it at. So there could be a drop based on the monies, depending on what negotiated in the contract with the union. But the drop from the captain's slot to the deputy chief was $128. The lieutenant's position is totally eliminated, vacated. The detective sergeant's position goes to inspector, goes up $4 grand. The three sergeants saves $216,738. And the commander's goes up $202. Total savings estimated at this time with the present schedule that it's set up at is $70,593 right now. It could change depending on what's negotiated, obviously. Those are just projections that we have at this point. Behind the sheet I gave you is a rundown of each line throughout the entire budget. It's going to impact other lines. So that's where the other savings will come in. There'll be a change in longevity, there'll be a change in survivors' benefits, and there's some other cuts that are going to be recommended down the road. But at this time, this is where we're headed, this is what we'd like to do. The chain of command would change, as you have in the department structure sheets. The chief of police, the deputy chief, the inspector, the commanders, the sergeants, the detectives, the youth officer, which is actually a detective, and the patrolman. That's where we're headed. That's what we'd like to do. That's the recommendation that I'm making to this board.
And I am sure there are many questions sitting here right now, and we'll take them one at a time. Before we do anything, I would like to recognize our 2 attorneys, because we do have a letter from them. My concern was charter and where we stand on the charter doing something like this. And we did have a letter from our attorneys, but if you, either one of you or both of you would like to comment on it, I'd appreciate that right now.
I'd be happy to, Madam Chair. Richard Baterlis, Seymour Town Council, from the law firm of Birch and Moses in Devlin. We were asked whether or not, what was the appropriate body that had the charter authority with respect to creating new positions within the police department. The charter is unambiguous in that that authority lies with the Seymour Board of Police Commissioners. That is your authority. That's what our letter answered. secondarily. So that would, in terms of the creation of the supervisory positions that are not within the bargaining unit, that is wholly within your authority and discretion. With respect to those, and our letter doesn't address this, but I'll give you the short answer. My colleague, Mr. Holcomb, who does the town's labor work, is with me. With respect to those positions that fall within the bargaining unit, that is something that the town would need to discuss with the bargaining unit. So that's the short answer.
Okay, so clarification is
that actually action of this nature can actually be taken with, even though, you know, it is in the realm of us doing this without going against the charter, or
No,
I'm concerned about charter language versus action.
You have the authority under the charter. You have specific language that gives you the ability to create positions within the police department. Grade, positions, that's something you have the authority for. You are also, the town is also a party to a collective bargaining agreement. And so to the extent there are certain positions that fall within that, the town would have to deal with that. Now, I know my colleague has had some discussions with the union leadership, and he can, in a general nature, tell you about it in public session if you'd like. Warren?
Yeah. Madam Chair, Warren Holcomb from the same law firm, labor counsel for the town of Seymour. I spoke to the union attorney, Dan Esposito, who, in terms of the restructuring, is fine with the proposed reorganization of the department command, if you will, in the department. There are a couple of positions, as indicated by the chief, where there would be some pay increases that would have to be negotiated with the union. Those would have to be, still have to be negotiated, but that should be that should not be at all a difficult exercise. Nor is that necessary to do before your commission and board takes action on the actual restructuring plan. And we would probably do that as part of the upcoming negotiations that are going to be getting underway with the police union soon.
Because I do believe their contract is up for negotiations this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, right. Yep, June 30th. Yep.
Okay, now it's time for any questions for anyone that,
Chief, my understanding is that the captain and the lieutenant's position will still be there but be vacant.
Correct.
So at a later date, if this department or the commissioners had an opportunity or a need for those two positions, it's there yet. We just have to fulfill it.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, one of my comments, Madam Chairman, is the police department, we used to have a chief and 2 lieutenants, and what we did is we restructured it and made a chief, lieutenant, and a captain, and that was back in, I think, 2000, 1999, 2000, with the union. You had to discuss this with the union, taking somebody out of the union position to become a captain. So this has been done in the past by this board. I just wanted to make that comment.
okay, anyone else?
Yes, Chief. The commander's positions, the inspector position, and the deputy chief's, well, deputy chief would be out of the union. Inspector and the 3 commanders, are they union salary jobs or?
Union jobs.
They're union
All
jobs?
union, yes.
Okay. And as far as the deputy chief's position goes, are you considering the deputy chief second in command of the department?
Absolutely.
Okay, the criteria now in the charter is a contract for the chief, for the next chief, a 3-year contract.
Right.
Would it be advantageous for the town to have a 3-year contract for this new deputy chief's position?
It's not in the charter.
No.
It's not in the charter.
Well, wouldn't it make sense to have a 3-year contract?
Well, it's up to
I mean,
this board to
protect the
make that
town?
decision. No, it's up to this board to make that decision.
The current lieutenant has a contract.
Okay,
If this position was to be accepted and the board was to go forward,
Right,
he'd have to negotiate a new contract.
right,
What the time frames and stuff with that would be between the town and him.
okay. And, personally, I'd like to see, I'm not sure the rest of the board, but the next chief has a 3-year contract. There's some prerequisites, both experience and education for the next chief. If the deputy chief is second in command of the department, I think we should follow suit in that the same prerequisites and experience should be for that position. I mean, as it stands now, these are, the way I understand it, these are just elevations in rank. We're just changing titles.
You're making title changes.
Making
On those
title
two
changes.
positions, the commanders is a new established position.
So as it stands now, the lieutenant salary is $88,000 a year.
Right.
The deputy chief is $91,872.
We had put in 92 in the real budget.
Okay,
When I restructured, I did it at a different rate.
okay,
So that's why it's down to 91,872.
okay, but the bottom line,
But that's at the 3.
we're talking a $3,872 increase.
Correct.
Okay. And as far as the commanders, roughly $7,000 per commander for an increase from sergeant to commander. It's a $23,000
Right.
increase, and there's 3 of them, so a little over $7,000
Right.
apiece. One more time, how is it going to benefit the department with those salary increases?
The bottom line is that we're eliminating the lieutenant. We're structuring out those job functions to different individuals.
Okay,
So job assignments are going to be increased, responsibilities are going to be increased, including scheduling, all the other items that we've been battling with over the years, because by not having a captain for the last 3 years, it's really put a damper on how we've been able to get stuff done. A lot of stuff is fallen through a hole because of this lack of manship up here. So
Right.
by getting these positions in place, we'll be structuring out more functions to every individual, like the inspector is going to be taking over internal affairs.
okay,
And we're going to be spending more time making sure our training's up to date and everything else with the other guy. The commanders are going to have more responsibilities for getting information back to us, both on the equipment we have, what we need. They're going to have more input into the budget issue, because they're the ones that are out there, they know what they need on the street. The sergeants right now the fight that's going on between the sergeants right now is causing a lot of problems, causing a lot of the issues. They're fighting, like I said, they're sergeant shopping. They go to one, they go to the other, they go back and forth.
Chief, I'm going to be honest with you, looking at this command structure, it just looks like a few title changes. The actual overall structure looks the same. The deputy first selectwoman made a comment about putting more officers on the street, according to what the first selectman had said. How does that happen with this
Because the
command
one man
structure?
that's not out there now, that's the lieutenant's position,
Yeah,
that's going to give
You're
us the
gonna fill with a patrol
opportunity.
officer.
He's going back into the patrol function stuff. By doing this, we're going to be speeding up. We're going to get the SRO out very shortly. And then hopefully, when we get the other 2 guys out of the academy coming up, we're going to be able to put the community policing officer back in place. That's where our goal was, which we're trying to get back to.
for the last 2 years, pretty much we've heard you say that you need somebody at that mid-level management. You were letting, things were happening here because we didn't have another captain.
Right.
Realistically, all I see here honestly is a title change. Personally, I think it could be done a little bit more cost-effective. I think what you can do is, instead of a patrol commander, you could probably have a master sergeant on each shift without that $7,000 per commander increase, maybe half of that, $3,500. And what you can do, what I think you could do is actually widen your structure, have 2 lieutenants, have an administrative lieutenant and have an operations lieutenant. Anything, the patrol division, the detective division, and probably traffic would answer to operations, and all the administrative tasks answer to the administrative lieutenant. Like I said, as I see now, it's an awkward structure the way I see it. You have direct line authority, and I'm looking under deputy chief. He's in charge of traffic, he's in charge of training, parking enforcement, crossing guards for a deputy chief, the records division, secretary, support services. What does support services entail?
That's all those things.
Okay, so
support
that's,
service.
okay,
He's
so the
taking care of all
crossing
that.
guards and all that.
And he's
We have
also overlooking the patrol division.
He is.
And the other aspect that you're not looking at is the fact that by moving these people into commander positions, we're going to be giving our opportunity to more individuals to get to the FBI Academy. Because right now, the only one that's eligible to go to the FBI Academy other than me is the lieutenant. No one else can go. So we've lost seats in the FBI Academy for the last 5-6 years because we haven't had a captain
Well,
or any other
honestly,
position.
to go to the FBI Academy, what is it? One half of 1% of all law enforcement officers end up going to the FBI Academy. I mean, I would be
Did you
more.
go?
I would be more.
Did you go?
Yes, I did.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I was there. but I'm a captain too.
Exactly. Well, we don't have 85 people. We got 41. And the manpower that we have, if we can get somebody else in position so that we can do our own promotions from within, that's what we're trying to do, is establish a growth within the department. It gives these people the opportunity to expand in their growth in their own department. And if you can't get them to the FBI Academy because you don't make the promotions, then you're holding back the department. not me.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly, but I would like to see these promotions made more cost-effective.
Well, I
I
think
mean-
saving 70,000 is pretty cost effective.
Well, I'm looking at the $7,000 increase for the difference between a sergeant and a commander, and you told us a whole lot, but actually for the senior sergeant, I didn't really see a whole lot different that they are doing or they should be doing already. You talked about sergeant shopping. That shouldn't be happening.
Right.
If it's happening right now with two sergeants, it should be taken care of.
Right.
And what else did you mention? What were the other issues? In here, you have building maintenance. One sergeant is already handling that, and I know that for a fact because it's been brought up as far as some of his performance.
Right.
And you tell us why he gives out no tickets, stops no cars, because he's in charge of building maintenance. So that's already occurring. I know you have a sergeant already handling DUI and traffic grants. He's on the C shift, and that's built in here. So honestly, I don't see a whole big change other than giving 3, 4, 5, 5 people a raise. That's what I see here, and eliminating a position. I would much prefer seeing a second lieutenant added and possibly some master sergeants. I think that would widen your structure, and that would help you out quite a bit. Because like I said, for the last couple of years, we heard you say that you can't get certain things done because you don't have enough people at the command side. You don't have really any more people at the command side. All we have here is name changes. That's what we have.
3 people will be getting more functions, more jobs.
The 3 people, okay.
3 commanders and the
Do we have that? Do we have their current work description, their job description, and their new job description?
You had both of them. You had last year's manual and the one we just did.
Okay, could we see it in our packet before we vote on it? I'd like to see line by line the different changes.
Talking about, the cost and so forth, first of all, we plug figures in, okay? But these figures still have to be negotiated.
Correct.
So this isn't necessarily the figures, this is just a guesstimate.
Those are the numbers that I utilized, correct?
Right. And with the deputy chief, that is a negotiated item also, contract.
Correct.
So that, you have no control over it,
No.
and we have no control over it.
Correct.
So that depends on whatever that individual, whatever is negotiated in that particular position,
Correct.
right? Okay. And I just want to comment on something that you said at this point on having a lieutenant and then 3 master sergeants.
2 lieutenants, you have an administrative lieutenant.
Right, you're adding a second lieutenant.
Well, what I'm doing is filling in that second command officer
Okay,
that was not
okay.
filled. We're eliminating a captain and adding a second lieutenant.
Okay. So actually, your restructuring is giving a different name to exactly what's on here.
No, not
You're
really.
calling the
Not at all.
commanders master sergeants, and what you're doing is adding another position with that second lieutenant.
The second lieutenant would be right here, and everything would be branched off of that. Operations would be on one side, administration would be on the other side.
So that's another person on this line.
Right, it's another person.
Exactly, so you just added another person up here and
But-
renamed these people.
And all we have now is, what we have is...
I'm just
I know.
commenting on what you said.
Well, I'm trying to
and-
comment on what I see here. All
Well,
it is
if you
the
look
same
at-
positions with new names and pay
And
increases. That's what I
what
see.
you're doing is giving the same positions
What I'm doing
a
is-
different name.
What I'm doing is filling that second administrative slot that the chief has asked for the last 2 years.
Okay,
At
so
a lower rate.
So what you're doing is well, you don't know if it's going to be a lower rate because this position hasn't been
No.
negotiated yet.
2 lieutenants would be $88,000 apiece. I believe the captain's position was budgeted at
92.
92.
Well, let me
So
tell
it
you
is a lower
something.
rate.
The lieutenant's positions are also negotiated positions, contractual positions. So they have contracts
Okay,
that
well,
have to be negotiated.
that's even better then, because we won't be paying a junior lieutenant $88,000, we're paying a senior lieutenant.
But you've had
So we
another
save even
person-
more money.
Madam
Right,
Chairman,
excuse me.
could I just-
And I really don't want to get into it, but I see you adding another person up here and changing the names down here, but
I'm
you're
filling the
saying
spot
no.
that the chief has asked for 2 years.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
my comment is, chief and lieutenant's here all the time. We're here once a month. If the chief and lieutenant are recommending this would make our department run more efficient, give better protection to the citizens of this town, and protect our police officers, then I would support it 100%. I don't care what titles you use and what you do. We're doing the best we can. It's nice to save money when you do a restructuring, but if you can't save the money, so be it. We got to look out for the protection of this town and the best operations of this Seymour Police Department. And I went through this restructuring when I got my agenda. There was some things, and I came in and I talked to the chief a little bit about it, I think on Friday,
Yes.
Thursday or Friday, because I wanted to have a little bit more education on about how this was happening. The Seymour Police Department has tried many times over many years of restructuring this police department. Some of it worked and some of it didn't. We once had, right now you're talking patrol commanders and sergeants. We had corporals. We made corporals instead, and at a little bit higher pay and a little bit more job responsibility. And that worked out good for a while, but then that was phased out. So we made more sergeants instead of making corporals back then. So I mean, we've done a lot of different restructuring over the years, and this restructuring program that I'm looking at in front of me, I think is one of the best restructurings that I've seen in many, many years for the Seymour Police Department. And I think it's nice that we could promote or change job titles to people within this department already that deserve it, that's already overworked and already doing things that are above their pay grade already, and they're not complaining about it. So all we're doing is trying to make it a little bit more feasible for all these officers in the Seymour Police Department. But protection of this town is my priority, and I think this restructuring will do that.
Mike,
How do you
I
think it
have
would?
a question,
Excuse me,
Madam
excuse me.
Chairman.
Allow Mr.
Chief, you made the rate of pays down here, and the way I figured out that the commanders, they're going to be making about $1.25 more an hour.
Right. The way I structured it out, and I talked to first selectmen about it, I talked to the Board of Finance about it, and what I did was I put a 2%, 3% on the first one, and 2% on the sergeants to upgrade theirs, because the sergeants have been grossly underpaid here for years. And then I put 2.5% on top of that for the commander, and another 5 on top of that for the deputy, for the other one. Those are just recommendations.
Figures you threw out.
Right, those are recommendations that may change. It will change.
Do you feel those recommendations would meet the requirements of the union?
I
mean, just offhand.
No, I said
I mean, you
in my
think that-
conversations with Mr. Esposito and Mr. Holcomb,
Yeah.
everybody seems to be on board with that particular projection. But then, like I said, the numbers are not yet negotiated. Those are estimates that were put out there based on the budget that I have presently.
You know, the way I look at it, it's a good start, and then actually we have negotiations with the union and everything. But I wouldn't want to have this as a stumbling block right now. You know.
Now, you have the union president here. You can ask him, he's here.
Yeah. I would like to ask you that. You're familiar with, excuse me.
Yes, we spoke, and Johnny Antoni, your president. The chief mentioned this proposal to me, and before I did anything else, I got in touch with our attorney, Dan Esposito, just to see what the union could do, couldn't do, what the membership needed to be involved with on this. And Dan came down and met with the chief, and we know what needs to be voted on. There'll be language drawn up, and it'll be presented to the membership for a vote at some point.
What's your feeling? I mean, you feel as though it's fair?
It seems like it's a good thing for the union as far as what I've talked to the members that I've talked to about it. Everybody seems to like the idea. It's money that was in management prior with the captain's rate that's coming into the union at this time. So there doesn't seem to be any negatives to the union right now.
Thank you.
The only other issue was that when we talked to the union, they made it very clear that we were allowing only one person outside the union, a number 2 position, and if we tried to establish another position, it was going to be a union position, period. So if we made another lieutenant or some sort, even a captain or whatever, it was going to be in the union. No ifs, ands, buts about it.
Chief, I just have a question.
Yes.
The patrol commanders and the sergeants, they won't be working the same days, correct?
No, there'll be different days off.
So we don't have to replace a patrol commander if he's out, the sergeant would be
Right,
there?
sergeant's there.
Okay, I just want to make sure through the 7 days during the week.
Right.
Which schedule are they actually going to work, Monday through Friday, or?
No, we had it broken down, I think, but this, again, this is all negotiations, part of the negotiation thing, because you can't change the contract in the middle, just changing dates. The estimate was, the projection was to do maybe a Friday and Saturday for one of them and a Sunday, Monday for the other one.
What do they currently have? What's the senior sergeant?
Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, there's nobody off on Saturday.
So he's not going to be, the commander, the shift commander or patrol commander is not going to be available at all times? Not a salary job available?
It's not a
at all
salary
times?
job, no.
Madam Chairman, I also respect the first selectman and deputy first selectman's opinions on how they feel this department should be running too, and I think it's very important that we take that into consideration too.
I think they'll be a big ally when we go before the finance.
Yeah.
As I said, both boards in agreement on this contract if we do it. So.
I would, Madam Chairman, I would support this restructuring only after we know what the final negotiations are going to be. I don't want it to be where the patrol commander, they want to negotiate $20 more an hour. I'm just using a number, as long as it's reasonable to the town of Seymour and the town could accept it and the union could accept it, I think it should be a fair negotiations, but I would support the restructuring as long as it goes through the proper negotiations.
And we want to make it perfectly clear, too, that the captain's position and the other lieutenant's position right now is not being eliminated. It's just not being funded at this time. Okay. We make that absolutely clear at this time with the restructuring.
That would save a lot of time and effort on future boards to have those two positions available.
Right, if
Right.
in the future,
Right.
there's only one other question that I have, and hasn't been brought up by anyone, but the positions of patrol commander, are they going to test for this? Has something been set up for a procedure for this particular?
My recommendation to the board at this time is to interview the 6 sergeants and make the selection from you people, from those 6 sergeants, who the commander should be. And then, when you're doing negotiations, you can negotiate how it'll be filled in the future, but on this first time through, I think that's my recommendation to do. And whoever you pick as the 3, that's the 3.
Does everyone understand that?
We have 6 sergeants?
6 sergeants. Well,
So
5
just-
are working, 1's out.
So it's just an interview by the Board of Police Commissioners?
Interview by the board of police.
What? I see.
Oh. Well, does anyone have any more questions at this time? Because now's the time to ask them. We have our attorneys here, we have everyone here, and I don't want anyone walking out later and saying they didn't have the opportunity to understand what is going on right now. Everyone's satisfied with the answers, and any more questions? If not, then at this point, would anyone like to make a motion at
I'll
this
make the
point?
motion.
What is your
Accept
motion?
the proposed plan as by the chief is proposed to this board. And I said, I'm encouraged to put this motion into effect because knowing that the Board of Selectmen accepts it also, I think that's something that we've been looking forward to.
Is there a second to that?
I'll
motion?
second it.
Yes, sir. Under comments, and I just have one comment at this time. What are you looking as a time frame to implement this?
As soon as possible. But
Like-
that's gonna be,
like
you'll
tomorrow?
have to.
Does this have to
There's
be
a timing
put in-
factor for the commanders, you'll have to set up a time for that.
Exactly.
The other 2 positions could be done, and as far as the salaries and stuff, that's something that they'll have to negotiate.
Deputy chief will be non-union,
He's non-union.
and
correct.
inspector will be union?
The inspector's union.
Unless he doesn't want to be union, right?
No, he has no choice.
Just trying to get a few people out of union.
I was just curious so that we have some idea of what we're looking at.
And they're going to give away a minimum shift requirement?
No, not giving that up.
You're going into negotiations right now, that's not within our power. Any other comments at this point? All in favor? And I will take it by individual votes rather than aye, nay.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, gentlemen, for being here to answer our questions.
Our
I
pleasure.
appreciate it. Could we take like maybe, no, do you need a break or do you want to go right on? Anyone needs a break?
I'm all set.
You want to continue on? Okay. We'll go on to the management report. I just want to wait to say hello to him because I haven't seen him in such a long time.
Go ahead.
We'll take what, maybe just a 5-minute recess. I just want to have the opportunity to at least, do we have a motion to take a 5-minute recess?
I'll make the
I'll
motion.
second it. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. I just want to do regular session, a vote to go back into regular session.
So moved.
Second? A second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. So we are back in regular session at 8:10. And at this time, we'll move on to the management report.
All right, on the main budget, everything right now seems to be holding pretty well. Overtime is a little on the high side, but with the money that we've been getting from statewide and the money from the grants, it's kept it pretty stable. So we got about 40,000, 45,000 left for the year with more money coming in each week because of the statewide narcotics situation. On top of that, we just closed out the account, and I'll get to that in a minute. Then on the income, we're way ahead of what we were last year, and we'll probably be meeting our goal probably by mid-April or maybe early May at the earliest. So we're going to probably be recommending increases in the budget for the income for next year. On the seizure account, we just got a check from Valley Street Crime Unit for 9,000 and change because they're closing down it because of all the problems they had down there. So they're closing down the seizure fund, so that's going straight into the seizure fund, and then the operation funds will be coming back and going into the community fund. But that right now, those two figures, you have those, but that 9 isn't in there because that just came in this February. In the meantime, we're going down to look at all of their old equipment. Most of the stuff is really outdated, but there may be a few items down there we may want, so that the 4 towns are going to go over the stuff and get rid of the stuff that's junk, and then just put the stuff up that's down there that's halfway decent. There's about 4 or 5 cars that are all kind of junk, so we're going to sell those, and the money's going back to the towns.
Mike, excuse me, and I don't know
Yes.
if you're on that subject. This, they're just going to abandon that whole program, or,
No, what the plan was, because of all the problems they've had recently, with the evidence room being questioned, let's put that
Yeah.
way, violated, or whatever you want to call it, they've decided they're going to close it down, get everything cleaned up. We're going to do it, we're going to put it on hold because there's so much political issues that had to be legislation to establish the Valley Street Crime Unit. The only ones that can really close it and shut it down for good is the first selectman from each community, the mayor. So we can do the holding it back as far as operations, but the actual closing it and shutting it down, I don't think that's in the best interest. I think down the road we may be reinstituting it, but not right now. There's too many problems.
the statewide task force, they'll probably fit right into that anywhere now, right?
Right now, we're doing well up there. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of activity in Seymour that's going on that we're addressing.
So it isn't that we've been left out in the dark.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the Valley Street Crime Unit was originally established in '79, and that was to address, at that time, a burglary ring that was running over the 4 towns. It got transferred, or changed over to a drug unit when the seizures became a big issue. The 4 chiefs at this point would like to see it reinstituted for its original purpose, which is robberies, larcenies, burglaries, heavy duties, that kind of stuff around here, and then use the narcotics aspect as a secondary. And until we can get that structure put together again, right now it's on hold.
Okay.
You have a letter I gave you pertaining to an officer that was requested to get a letter to us by a certain date, and I gave that to the chairman, and she can go over that at a later date with the board for us. We can't do it in open session. Other than that,
We have several letters here. Letters
oh, I'm
of
sorry,
recommendation.
you're right, there was,
Okay.
Sergeant Rinaldi put in a commendation letter or acknowledgement for an attempted suicide up in Trinity Church parking lot, cemetery, where a guy was going to do himself some harm. And several officers responded to that and actually talked him out of it, put the knife down, and went and got his help. And those were Officer Michelli, Officer Oskowski, Officer Pinto, Officer Holland, Officer Oskowski, and I got the other ones,
Walsh.
and Officer Walsh. So I wrote letters of appreciation to each one, put it in their file with the sergeant's recommendation. He wrote a 2-page report. And in addition to that, they recommended that the sergeant said that he thought that Derby had sent their officer Koski and his dog Bane up to the scene to help. So I sent a letter to Chief Narowski thanking them for their assistance and acknowledging the effort of Officer Koski. And that's all in that package that I gave. That individual also caused the same kind of a ruckus in December where he was standing on the dam over there. He was going to jump off by Clouders Village.
And I see you've also included Sergeant Rinaldi's.
Yes, his request.
Okay.
It was nice to see. And those 3 names there that we interviewed, brought them onto the department.
Yep.
There's 3 of them there.
3 new ones, correct.
Yeah.
But the guy that really stepped up a little heavier than everybody else was Officer Oskowski. He's the one that confronted him. He's the one that went up and talked him out of dropping the weapon and everything else. He did a nice job.
Anything else that you wanted to bring up at this point?
I don't think there's anything else at this point.
Nothing else?
We have a budget meeting. I got a call today from Mr. Thomas. Because it was snowed out last week, he's setting up, and he's going to get back to me somewhere in March. He doesn't know if it's the 5th, the 10th, or the 12th. He has to go back to me with that date. As soon as I get that date, I'll contact you and let you know.
I understand that they're holding this particular budget on a Monday to make sure that everyone is available for the meeting or something.
I didn't talk to him other than that.
That's what I was told when I was told.
I thought if you got snowed out, you didn't have to go.
I was hoping. Well, as soon as you get that information, I'll pass it on to the members too, give them a call, because everyone is welcome to come to that meeting and show support for our budget. Is there any, well, no, we can't go into any other business at this time because it is a special meeting. So at this time, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. We've adjourned at 8:20.